Hey y'all, it's your girl Coach Kinsley. Today we're going to talk about cortisol.
Cortisol? I know nothing about cortisol, Coach Kinsley. Hit me up with the tea.
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to 15-Minute Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley. I'm producer Mike, senior editor for the podcast, and a former client of Coach Kinsley's who benefited from every rep until I heard
3, 2, 1, let's go! Remember to always consult your physician before starting any nutrition or fitness regimen. So, cortisol is a hormone that your adrenal glands produce and release. Some of you might know cortisol as the stress hormone. Is that sounding familiar now?
Stress hormone, I've heard of, and I have. And I know it can go high, and I know it can go low, depending on my level of stress. Is that pretty basic?
Yeah, that's pretty basic. So, cortisol is going to affect several different aspects of your body. But yes, it mainly helps regulate your body's response to stress.
Okay, so it's not causing me stress. It how my body regulates when I perceive stress.
Yes. Wow, you nailed it.
Okay, look at me.
And keep in mind that because of the type of hormone cortisol is, all of your different systems and all of your different tissues can respond to it. So it doesn't just affect your metabolism, it's also going to affect inflammation, your blood pressure, your blood sugar. It's even going to affect your sleep wake cycle.
All right, so yeah, I am familiar with some of those side effects, like the sleep wake cycle. I've been stressed and can't sleep, or I've been stressed and asleep, and then I wake up and can't go back to sleep. I know that's definitely something that affects my health in that way, depending on the level of stress. Are there things that I can do to mitigate that? Isn't exercise something that can positively affect that, or how does that even play into fitness?
Yes, so fitness and nutrition both can help stabilize your cortisol levels. So, cortisol helps regulate your stress response, but if you have chronic stress, then that's where fitness is going to become that much more important to you. So, how cortisol will be released during times of stress is that it will be released after your fight or flight hormone, like adrenaline. So, you continue to stay on high alert because your body thinks that you need to be on high alert. In addition to this cortisol that is triggered, it will also release glucose or sugar from your liver for fast energy during these times of stress because your body thinks you need to fight or flight.
Yeah, so there's some of it that you can't control. It's like your body automatically releases it. But it sounds like that maybe fitness is a way to, I would think, burn the glucose that you're releasing. Is that?
You got it.
Oh, look
Yes,
at me. All
nailed
right.
it. So you can't really control the hormone release, the cortisol release, or the sugar release, but you can control how you use it. And that's where fitness comes in. When you get into those moments of larger stresses, like not acute stress, going for a run would be a great idea. Or maybe a heavier lift, maybe try some plyometrics, something that is going to use these hormones and sugars that were released. When you are exercising, you'll release endorphins. So not only will it use the sugar, but it'll also make you happier.
Is cortisol then always bad? I mean, is it always gonna just release when I'm in a high stress situation?
So cortisol isn't bad because there are moments when you need it. Like you don't want to be chill at all times. What if you're being chased by a dog? The sugar has been useful, especially way, way back in history, is when we were living more outside. I'm not going to call cortisol bad, just a lot of it for a long amount of time is going to negatively affect you.
So I see sometimes, coach, nutritional supplements that say that they can manage cortisol. Is that true? Like if I take it, it'll lower cortisol level, or is that really just by burning that extra stuff that's in my system through at least fitness?
So there are diets that are better to help you regulate cortisol levels than other ones. I don't know about much about the supplement route, but I do know about the natural means. So I had mentioned that cortisol is going to increase and regulate your blood sugar, and this ties into when the glucose is released in those stressful situations. Under normal circumstances, cortisol will counterbalance the effect of insulin to regulate the blood sugar. Like I mentioned, high stress for a long time, that's where cortisol will raise your blood sugar by continuing to release that stored glucose. While the insulin lowers blood sugar, but it thinks that you need high blood sugar, right? It thinks that you need this to get out of the situation that you're in. That can lead you having chronically high cortisol levels and therefore chronically high blood sugar, which you might know as hyperglycemia, which long term can cause type 2 diabetes. Like high stress for a long amount of time is a very serious matter. And I hope that everyone listening is taking this seriously.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, people who react to stress by downing a couple of cheeseburgers and a bag of fries, I mean, that's just tripling their blood sugar amounts. They'd have to exercise 5 times as long to knock all that out. That's really interesting, Coach. That's really a double whammy right there.
Right. If you are in a high stress for a long time lifestyle situation, whatever the case, you should definitely lower your intake of added sugars and also saturated fats. Those should be lower in your diet when you are stressed out. And it's really too bad because that's usually where we lean when we're stressed. We're eating the sweets for comfort. We're eating the fried foods for comfort. And it's like that is exactly opposite of what your body needs because your blood sugar levels are already high. So instead, if you're in a high stress situation for a long time, high stress lifestyle, you should lean towards more natural sugars like fruits. Also go for vegetables and whole grains so that you can increase your fiber. Beans, nuts, and seeds would be your better place to receive your carbs as well as your fats in a high stress lifestyle.
Interesting. So then, by at least using diet to help mitigate the effects of a high stress where you're going to have stress anyway, eat a better diet so it doesn't exacerbate what the cortisol does to your system, to your liver, and then throw in exercise. So really, if you were just to keep your macronutrients right and you do your fitness every day, that should help you manage that while you're not going to get away from the high stress job or whatever it is you're doing by maintaining fitness and macronutrients and hydration and sleep and rest and recovery. That should help mitigate that effect on your body, right?
Right, you will be in a much, much better situation for your body. And when your body's feeling good, it's a lot easier to handle those stressful situations. So it really is a positive feedback loop, but it starts with intention. I'm glad you mentioned rest and recovery because that's the other point that I want to talk about in regards to having high cortisol levels. High cortisol is going to negatively affect your sleep wake cycle. So, under regular circumstances, you have lower cortisol levels in the evening when you go to sleep, and then they'll peak in the morning right before you wake up. And this is another point where I'm like, cortisol isn't bad, it is helping to regulate your body. That is normal. If you are just regular circumstances, it's going to be lower before you go to sleep, it's going to be higher before you wake up. If you are in a chronically stressed out situation, it's going to affect your body's circadian rhythm negatively. So it's going to keep you out of REM sleep. And REM sleep is where you are getting the deepest sleep. You might be able to go to bed fine, but you might not, especially if you're really stressed out. But then if you do, your sleep isn't as quality. And I don't know about you, I definitely need my sleep. I think that everyone can tell when I don't get enough sleep, if you know what I mean.
You, Coach.
No, no.
So then, high cortisol bad, but there are ways to mitigate it. What about, is there such thing as having low cortisol? And does the opposite happen where you're like tired and kind of low geek getting? Is that a natural thing to happen?
You're right. So low cortisol levels do happen. And when it's regular, it'll go lower before you go to sleep. It'll go higher when you wake up. So if you have really low cortisol levels, then you might find it hard to get up even when you're not stressed out. So definitely getting it tested would be good. But it's hard to read that one when it comes to your sleep wake cycle because you're also going to be tired in the morning if you don't get enough sleep. Which, if you have high cortisol levels, it's going to negatively affect the quality of your sleep. So you might just be more tired, anyways. So it's kind of hard to read that one. So, how do you get enough sleep, even in a high stressful situation? If you are open to meditating or creating some type of nighttime routine, that will help regulate your hormones, getting yourself ready to go to sleep, especially having a routine. Keeping your room cool and dark, limiting electronic use before bedtime. This might be a hot take. Less caffeine and less alcohol in your diet.
So, coach, which I think makes sense, if you're having trouble sleeping because you're in a high stress situation, don't knock back a couple of Red Bulls, in the evening to finish whatever project you're working on or something and try and get some sleep.
No, I mean,
Oh,
period.
period.
Period, less
Like when
caffeine.
I wake up?
Right, because caffeine
Oh,
is
dear.
unnaturally raising your heart rate, right? Which is what cortisol would do in a stressful situation, anyways. Like, you need to give your body the space to adjust. You need to give your body the space to regulate. I really do mean less caffeine, period. You shouldn't really be having any type of caffeine after 3 p.m. if you tend to go to sleep before 11 p.m. If you can cut it completely when you're in a stressful situation, it'll really help you out. And this is one where I'm just telling you the fact, but I like my little cafecito in the morning, so I'm gonna have it. But I definitely cut down alcohol use significantly when I'm stressed out, because alcohol, yes, it's a depressant, so it will help you fall asleep faster. So many studies have shown that it'll reduce your REM sleep, once again, which already having high cortisol reduce your REM sleep, or that deepest part of your sleep where you're really recovering. When you're in a stressful situation, to help you get better sleep, set that nighttime routine, avoid caffeine, and avoid alcohol.
Boy, that's a tough call with the caffeine thing. I guess really the answer is not to be in a high stress situation, which if you're doing preventative work, you're doing meditation, you're getting your exercise and your rest and your recovery, and that is maybe the best way to handle it long term. I mean, there's always going to be situations where that's going to kick in regardless of what happens. You just got to know, I guess you got to recognize it and move on. And if you're having low cortisol, you're having fatigue, you're being tired all the time, that's when you probably should see your physician or trusted healthcare professional, correct?
I think for both, definitely get your cortisol levels checked. Like, both of them at a long period of time, high or low, is going to negatively affect your quality of life.
All right. Well, that was eye opening for me for sure. So, Coach, why don't you hit the highlights for us?
Okay, so cortisol is a hormone that your adrenal glands produce and release. It's going to help regulate your body's stress response, increase and regulate blood sugar, and control your sleep wake cycle. The best way to help manage your cortisol levels is going to be to regularly exercise, eat a balanced diet that is low in added sugar and low in saturated fats, favoring fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and dietary fibers instead. And get enough sleep by creating a nighttime routine, having less caffeine and less alcohol, especially in those stressful times of life. You got this.
All right. And I guess another thing I probably need to learn to cut out is probably fish.
No way.
Is
Out of
that
here.
is that
Out of here.
stressful?
No, fish is so good for you. Thank you so much for joining us today on 15-Minute Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley. The fun doesn't need to stop here. Email me at coach@coachkinsley.com. You can check out my webpage, coachkinsley.com, and also find me on Instagram at, you guessed it, Coach Kinsley. Your girl. See you next week. The 15-Minute Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley is a production of Greyhawk Enterprise, LLC.